and the way he talked about what he saw from the children remnants, not even bodies, and it shocked me. I have the right to cry. I cry. Well, I remember my mother, I cry, because I was there when she passed away. But is she going to come back when I cry? Or can I do something good for her soul after?
This is Silent Killers, a podcast from Face to Face and the international campaign to ban landmines. In 1997, the world said enough and signed the Mine Ban Treaty, but landmines are still claiming lives in many countries around the world. In this series, we meet survivors, frontline workers, and global changemakers, all fighting for a mine-free world. From Cambodia to the Ukraine, the danger is real. The work is urgent, and the path to peace is possible. Step by step, and yet still under our feet. This is Silent Killers. Well, welcome back to Silent Killers. My name is David Peck, and this is a podcast about many things, really. It's about being engaged. It's about being aware. It's about landmines and disarmament. It's about social justice. It's called Silent Killers. It's available on Apple and Spotify. You already probably know that because you're listening. But please subscribe to the podcast, share it with family and friends. You can find it on the ICBL's website as well. You can even watch these on YouTube, but maybe you're just listening at the gym right now, and we encourage that. But we really would love for you to leave a review and also to share this just share it with everyone you know. I think that would be our expectation, and we would be really grateful. Thank you for joining us. We've had so many special guests. We have 10 episodes. Go back and listen to some of the earlier ones if you get a chance. Some super interesting people that we've been able to talk to along the way. And Ayman Sorour is here with us today. He's the Director of Protection Egypt. He's the Co-Vice Chair of the ICBL Governance Board. He's got 2 decades of experience working in this area, landmines, cluster munitions, disarmament, and so on. I'm thrilled that you're here with us today. Thank you for taking the time to join me here on Silent Killers.
I'm thrilled too, and thanks too, because you are the one who leading this. And I admit it, really, the one you did before, and when I watched it, I was expecting, this is going to be like, too long broadcast. But once I began to listen to the first minutes, I stayed till the end. And I was even looking for a second interview with the same person without names and so on. But
wow, that's really great.
Happy to be with you and join you too.
Oh, Ayman, thank you. That's so wonderful. I appreciate the affirmation. And it's always, I always feel that I've done my job well if people want to hear more. And I know that usually when I finish a conversation, I just feel like we're peeling back the surface. We're just barely starting. And I know, based on our relationship already, I know we're going to have lots to talk about here today, and we're hopefully going to do a part 2. So we'll have to talk to the ICBL about that and maybe put a little polite pressure on Charles to do, another episode or 2 down the road.
Yeah, well, but maybe it's an occasion, as you mentioned at the beginning, that if people share it more and show a kind of more interest, of course we can do a second and even third. Well, so hopefully people will get really engaged and share it a lot.
I would love to hear about your story. For me, this whole idea of a silent killer, I was in a conversation yesterday. This idea of a silent killer being connected to trauma and being connected to PTSD, and how this metaphor is really for all of us, but it's so much more than a metaphor. In this case, it's a practical reality. This weapon that is left underground, that can't be seen, this unseen sort of scourge, on civilian populations largely, also, though, acts as a metaphor for things like trauma and PTSD. And I was fascinated by this person's observation. They had listened to a couple of the interviews, and I just thought, wow, the implications. When you drop that pebble in the pond and the splash and the ripple starts to grow out. I've been blown away by that in so many respects, in the best sense of the word. Can you tell me how you got pulled in to this story? Was there a personal moment? Was it a metaphor? Was it a story? Was it somebody that you met along the way? You've got over 2 decades of experience in this field. I'd love to hear more.
I would say I came from a human rights field perspective. I used to work for 10 years, with the human rights organization in Egypt at that time, at late 90s, beginning of 2000 years and so on. And really we worked in everything. And personally, I was more I had the chance maybe to work like with women's children and handicapped more than other stuff like torture, abuses and other stuff, human rights. But the main thing we have learned is it's right to life, which is include many things and so on. And when working in human rights, unfortunately, in a region like Middle East and North Africa, we don't really get a kind of this reaction to your work. What I mean, me, myself, at the past, and many other continue and still doing those activities, they don't really get like a kind of results in hand. And they see that, for instance, a specific abuse has been stopped or something like that. Once and because of personal little bit military background between practice, because I was like in a military high school, and then joined like the Air Academy, and then I went out for medical reason, and then I became a lawyer because I loved so much law studies. I don't know. Sometimes, you go by luck on something and you found yourself. So I loved law so much. It's about justice. It's about people rights. It's about help people to deal together and to put life component between together with specific rules. So I loved law. And then I was fortunate to work with a colleague. He passed away lately, unfortunately. He was part of the first people who established human rights organization in Egypt. So I was lucky to work with him in his office as a lawyer. And then for after a while, we worked like some legal cases for specific people with low income. And then he told me, why don't you join this organization? I said, what's that? I probably didn't know about that. So it began and I went and it works. And after years, I have seen and heard Judy William. Maybe she didn't even, I never told her that. I saw her when she got the Nobel Peace Prize with the campaign and so on. And for me, I got, well, landmines. I know about that. I heard about that. And we had and this problem in Egypt because of Second World War and because of the Israeli-Egyptian wars in Sinai and so on. And from time to time in the media, we used to see until now, but it's really much, much more less, that there is some victims or survivors and other stuff. Then I said, oh, so we should work on that. Why we don't work on that? Maybe it came from professional perspective about covering an area that nobody think about it. Nobody really tried to touch it. And it was dangerous because once I proposed that at this organization at that time, they said, you crazy or what? We already have enough trouble with the government to work with human rights. So you would like us to talk about landmines, which means at that time, a military issue. No one can touch it. In countries like Egypt and like South, well, the South, the global South between brackets, touching or trying to touch a military issue, it's complicated. But we work it. I decided to go out of this organization with other colleagues. We established what we named at that time Landmine Struggle Center. Even the name, as we were chatting earlier, it's funny in English because the struggle, it doesn't work with landmine from English perspective language, but it's more about mine action. We didn't know that, but we learned it, we go it, and we work. And less than 2 months after we began work in 98, really, we got something that pushed me a lot. That we already got one of the accident, which was in a small village next to the Suez Canal at that time. And I went over there and I checked, there were 4 children. And it was really, even the doctor who makes the medical report, when I met him with his sunglasses in his office and the way he talked about what he saw from the children remnants, not even bodies, and it shocked me. We did our reports, we put it in the media, and we did what we learned from human rights field at that time. So the government gets some interesting, and I was contacted by one of the Egyptian general who were responsible for what kind of department at the army at that time. And he told me after kind of investigation between practice about all details, to make sure that what's going on. So he got okay, these people professional. So he told me, have you been after? I said, no, it was 2 weeks ago. They said, now the village has been cleared and nothing is going on over there. And those children and their families, the children, unfortunately, they died, of course, but their family will get a kind of social care and so on. I said, oh, wow. I worked for 10 years in human rights. No one even said who you are. The contrary, every time they stop me at the airport. And now someone from the army calling and said, we did something because of something we did. Oh, no, here is a difference. Here's a great difference. I'm not saying, okay, human rights, colleagues doesn't do something. No, of course they do. So what I mean, I found a different achievement here.
I mean, it almost sounds like as a result of some questions that you were asking and what I would call almost pushback and the way that you collaborated and your mentor, your military mentor, who I think in an earlier conversation you had mentioned to me, one of the most important things that he did for you is he gave you the freedom to talk. And I so love that you had space to grow and to push back and to question. And it sounds like as a result of that, this led, well, not to a campaign necessarily, but it led to something actually happening. Landmines were cleared. A community was made safer. People were supported. You know, I'm getting goosebumps now as I think about this. And I think this, to me, this is almost how we should conclude our interview and say to everyone listening, no, your work does matter. So when you donate a few dollars, when you write a letter, when you remove a landmine, it is making a difference. And I so love that about this story that you've just told. So did that then lead from there to you saying, wow, I can make a difference here and is that right, eh?
Absolutely. And honestly, it's not only my case, I'm just one case, but I can tell you everyone on our campaign, what I mean, ICBL's international campaign to build landmines, everyone on a way or another, if you have the chance, like for more than 1,000 people, you will hear exactly the same story. And I can tell you the story I'm telling, it's really maybe it's the easiest one because there is other really they have a complication and so on. I was lucky that it worked from the first time. So I consider it myself lucky. And then after that, like few months after this accident, I have met with Judy in Beirut in March 1999. It was at the beginning, and we knew each other, and I got really fascinated by Judy, the way the passions and how she loves what she's doing, and she's really doing everything from heart and so on. And then the week after, she came to Cairo for, at that time, with Minister of Foreign Affairs and so on, and I was attending that. So I said, well, the campaign came to me, or I came to the campaign, whatever. It's written in papers that I have to be with.
It's serendipity, right? Right? Do you know what I mean? It's just this meeting, and Jody's wonderful, by the way. I've had the pleasure of interviewing her. That's episode 1, by the way, folks. If you do want to go back, don't forget you're listening to Silent Killers. You can go back and listen to interviews that we've done before. And some of the and I hope are challenged and affirmed by some of the conversations we've had. Ayman, what is it like working? So you're North Africa, you work in the Middle East. Do you feel like the landmine disarmament issue has been forgotten a little bit in this region? In other words, what do people think about when they hear about landmines, about anti-personnel weapons and disarmament and so on? Do they listen? Or are they ignoring it? What's your sense?
Absolutely no, it's not they listen only, they live it. Well, when you look at the region, I always I close my eyes and look at the map and see it from like Iran till Morocco, and the other the Iran in the east, Morocco in the west, and if you go like from border with Turkey and Syria, Iraq, and then till Djibouti, Somalia, because they are member of the Arab League, so they still, what I mean, in a way or another, within the same group. And it's all because of conflicts, whatever the reason for this conflict, if it's internal or between each other or foreigner or occupation, whatever the reason, it's by the end because of arm has been used in their lands. And the word landmines in regional language, between brackets, the most of the regional language, which is Arabic, is lagam or logm, which means mines. Logm. Exactly.
And that means mines?
Mines, whatever the type, away from the definition, anti-vehicle, anti-personal, marine mines, it's another story. But for people, it's simply the word. Once they hear it, that means something explodes suddenly from the ground while they are passing. This is for everyone. Grassing, building, cultivating, carrying something, children playing in their backyard or wherever they are, and then something explodes. This is the meaning of mines for ordinary people. They don't care about legal definition and so on. But frankly speaking, when I look at it, it's exactly the same definition of anti-personnel landmines convention. It's the same. It's explosive buried under the ground and by touch or approximately of a human being. So people got it. And I believe that this is everywhere.
Ayman, you know what strikes me about how you answered this? It's such a simple problem to solve. It's a landmine. It's an explosive device. It's a piece of UXO. It needs to be removed, and we're done. But now we have to talk about the global scope of the problem and how many and how much money that's going to require. But what I find not only fascinating but encouraging about it, I mean, there's a lot of discouraging things going on in the world right now too, is that this is a problem that can be solved.
Absolutely.
100% can be solved.
We have the proof from the region, this complicated region. I always give the example, for instance, with Algeria. Algeria joined the Mine Treaty like late 90s and began to enter to force like beginning of the 2000s or something like that. And I worked with them a lot. Now, since years ago, they declared that they have no landmines on the ground. The reason was conflict, was occupation. The reason was kind of securing like security issues, army base, electricity base, whatever it is. But by the end, there is no mines anymore. Maybe some could be found, like,
right,
for whatever.
But
this is
largely
but what
been
I mean,
cleared.
Largely has been cleared. And when you look at the surface of Algeria, this is the biggest country in Africa. This is the biggest country in North Africa and Middle East, both of them. And they did it, for instance, I'm not promoting for Algeria, but they deserve, frankly speaking.
Right.
And they did it without any foreign aid.
Wow, that's
money.
Wild.
They didn't ask
wonderful.
it for money. Some would say, okay, Algeria, they have oil and they have money and so on. That's good. Okay, but that's nice. But at least they have the willing, and then they got what I mean. We worked with them as ICBL. They worked with others. They worked with professionals. They got some technical advices. I wouldn't really help. No foreigner has been helping them on the ground, for instance. And they did it. Look in other places like Iraq even. You see the complicated in Iraq at work.
It's something to celebrate for sure. I mean, it's an affirmation of what can be done. They had the political will. They had the resources. They had the passion.
This is number one.
And the commitment.
Number one. Political will.
What's the history of the region? Is this largely about current conflict? Is this largely about remnants from World War II and in the region? Or is it also just about, I guess, what World War II, what are we, 70? Wow, I'm not much of a mathematician here, really, am I? This is really bad. But about what, 75, 80 years ago, are we still dealing, right?
More than 80 years, 85 years.
So can you give us a little bit of context for the region?
Yeah. Sure. It's difficult not only for Middle East and North Africa, which we name it MENA, but it's not only for MENA complicated that you can get the reason when it began. It could be from the First World War. It could be even before, if we apply the concept and definition of landmines, or even the word mines or logom, as I told you. No, it could be like before. It depends on where a kind of conflict had happened. And this region, for instance, you have, if we began like from Iraq, you have the Iraqi-Iranian wars, and then you have the Syrian with the internal and the Syrian-Israeli wars, and they have in Lebanon, it's exactly the same, and you have in Turkey, and you have in Egypt, Second World War, Israeli-Egyptian war. You have in Saudi Arabia for securing the border with Yemen, because there was some clashes began like in the 50s, and after Houthis now, it's like more in Yemen itself, one of the most affected areas before, and then the issue had been began. It's internally also since the liberation between practice or the independence. You have even in Oman for internal reason, but they cleared it already. You have in Sudan, as you see now, and then before, you have in Somalia because of the war of Somalia. You have it in Djibouti for some security reasons and other stuff. You have it in Libya because of Second World War. In fact, North Africa, some of them, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, because of Second World War mainly, and then border securing when the regimes had some conflicts whenever it happened. Algeria, it was with the occupation by France in a way or another in both border, west and east, and then they used it themselves during fighting against terrorists and so on. In Morocco, in the south, the berm or the walls between Algeria and Morocco. So Mauritania exactly the same. It was because of the some conflicts in the 70s with engaged in Morocco, Algeria, and other stuff, the Western Sahara issue, all those issues. It's all about war. It's all about conflicts. But you see the names of country and the places we mentioned, it's almost everywhere in MENA,
It's almost
Middle East, and
everywhere.
North.
It's I mean,
Unfortunately.
it sounds so discouraging. I think I remember reading a stat. What is it? 3,200 years approximately of written history, and I think maybe we've only had about 270 years of peace, whatever that means. Right? Variations of peace since the pre-Socratics, for heaven's sakes, right? So we do conflict really well, human beings, it seems, right? We really, unfortunately, don't seem to get along. And this is part of why we're here today and having this conversation to try to get to, we both hope, and all of us hope, I think, a better place, a place where we are listening to others. And I'm so glad you told the story about Algeria. That's new information for me, and I hope for some of our listeners. What does it look like right now for NGOs working in the Middle East and North Africa, civil society organizations? I know I've been in the sector for many years, and it's difficult at best. Can you tell us some of what's going on in your region?
It's not personal difficult, frankly speaking. On the contrary, I would say that we are much, much better than others. But the concept of civil society, NGO, non-governmental organization itself, in this region, unfortunately, mostly it's a human rights organization. And even from the beginning, I would say something like late 70s, beginning of 80s, the word civil society on such kind of places and countries, it doesn't really got trusted as it should be, and doesn't have this good relation which should be with authorities, national authorities, and so on. Unfortunately, this is in general one. It applies for everyone, whoever, whatever the field they work in. And since what I mean, the word civil society directly jump to mind, especially with this, for the authority, with human rights. So they get in clash. This is a bad guys. This is gonna be funded from outside. They're gonna be bad. They always mention about bad reports. They never monitor the good thing happening in the country. All this, it might be true. It might be no, but not. But it's unfortunately it affected the fact that people would like to engage the more, even in voluntary way, to work with a civil society or NGO, because the reputation governments give, it's like this is a bad boys. No, they are not bad guys. They are just a human like you, with the same eyes, the same head, same hair, everything, even with little bit hair, but it's still the same people. And then when we began, frankly speaking, the working about landmines, and then the work extended, and later we had this concept of disarmament, humanitarian disarmament NGOs working on that, because there is different issues. It's not only landmines, cluster munition, as you mentioned. Of course, we are working in the same campaign, and we have nuclear issue, and we have small arms, and we have arms trade, and we have the explosive weapons in populated areas. So this is all about humanitarian disarmament, and it's all about protecting civilians during and after, and even now we moved to be before. That means before, during, and after conflict or wars or whatever. This is the main challenge, I would say. This is the relation with the government, because they don't believe in a way or another, or they don't like, or whatever, or they use it politically, maybe internally, to be against NGOs or civil society. And then the disarmament issue, it's not, how can I say it? It's not attractive issue, because first of all, it's complicated. It engages the army, as I said earlier. So this is a bit, if we survive to work that, other might be not. And on the other hand, it's not really as getting attention as human rights, for instance. In human rights, you get attention by media, national media, international, regional, and so on, because, there is kind of compromise here and so on. But you are talking about landmines. So what's sexy in landmines? Well, it's people getting lose their life. Cluster munition, explosive weapons in a populated area. If you're talking about nuclear, this is all like a big issues. From one point, when you speak about it, you have to really know what you are talking about. Really. Because the issues, it's not sophisticated, but no, you have to know about it. You have to study. You have to do your homework. This is absolutely normal. But once you love it, you like it, it's going to be easy. It's not going to be hard homework like my son who skipped doing homework. No, It's going to be much, much easier, and you can get things much, much better. It's about people. It's about when you see results and you see a country. I told you about Algeria, but I didn't tell you about Kuwait, for instance. We got Kuwait to join the Mine Bin Treaty in 2008 or something like that, which was great, which was like a breakthrough on the Gulf region. The Gulf region, they don't have a problem. They don't have the mines issue. That means you don't use it, which is great. But also in this country that really next to Iraq, with all the history with Iraq before, and next to Iran, and next to Saudi Arabia, and in a hot region by the end, and they join it, that was really great. And now we're working with them to join the Cluster Munition Convention and other stuff. So you achieve something here. From one hand, you should be professional between brands, which is like anything in the world, whatever you do. If I'm going to make shopping, to buy vegetable, I should check for this vegetable and make sure it's a good one. It's exactly being professional like in anything. And the second thing, that you know very well your community, national community, the regional one. Of course, a little bit geopolitical and so on, because things are going on. And I can tell you from own experience, this way it worked well with governments in the region. Now, after all years, when you say 20, that make me a little bit old and make us like a kind of old people, but it's not the case. We're still trying to do our best. Governments and officials, they come to us sometime and they ask, what does it mean? If I give you an example, now we are talking about, improvised mines. This is the really recent problem on the ground, which is mines by the end under the Mine Bin Convention. People, what does it mean legally? Well, this is terrorist planted it, and so I said, okay, that's fine, but it's still mines. You have to
Right.
work.
Still sort of falls under the same umbrella.
Exactly. Others said, okay, no, this is not landmines, this is ERW, explosive remnant of war. Yes, it is, but it turned to be landmines because it has been buried after years and so on. So you have to work on that. So you see, we have like a different issues, different subjects, but they are all the same. Getting this relationship with government, this is another thing that is essential with disarmament, humanitarian disarmament war.
I'd love to hear too about what you feel is maybe one of the greater challenges. I suppose you've talked around that for sure and about some of them specifically. But I think my direct question is, has the treaty, the Mine Ban Treaty or the Cluster Munitions Convention, has it been effective, would you say? Has it been something that has spoken to the right people, if that question makes sense? Have you been able to get it in front of the right people, the policymakers, the military leaders? It sounds like it, but of course, there's always challenges.
Absolutely. First of all, honestly, the peace prize within the campaign makes the issue well known in a way or another. So it saved a kind of like at least a 30% of efforts we need to do when you're going to talk to official and so on. They know about the issue because of the peace prize and what's going on and here and here and here. But on the other hand, some of them still, to be honest, still find their way to escape such kind of discussion because of whatever security reason, because securing borders, all this, which is respect. What I mean, one of the issues that as NGO working in humanitarian disarmament, no, we consider. I always put myself on the others' places. But I mean, I consider myself official, although I will never be an official, but I consider myself official, as a job, and he has a boss, and the boss has a boss, and then he has a policy between practice that he cannot go out. Even he believe in what you said. And here is the key. Because among those level, among those personality, and as I told you a while ago, once they trust you because of professionalism and because of the way you speak and the information you provide that they don't know themselves sometimes, be honest. So they began to listen to you. And here is how you change them. Here is the key. And this is, well, I'm not going to go for how to do advocacy, but this is part of the issue. How you change this mentality. Speaking about years, as you mentioned, about 20 years and more, something very nice and funny I like. People I got to know official 20 years ago who just began their careers, they are the decision maker now. Yes, it's true. I saw it. I cannot say names, even in high level in some high level in some countries, which is great. But I mean, which is great because they know when you go back to them and talk about something, yes, maybe they don't really join some of them because we have quite good number joining the Migrant Treaty from the region. Some of them said, yeah, I agree with you, but there is other condition and so on. But listen, we will have some kind of compromise. Just an example. I just mentioned Morocco a while ago. I can mention too Morocco. Morocco didn't join. They said, okay, we cannot join because of the Sahara issue and so on. But they announced officially they are committed to the main bin. So no use, no export, no import, no. This is what I want. Excellent. We continue to work with them. We're not leaving them alone, but we work on them. So this is something great. Okay. Lebanon, you see how complicated is it? It wasn't me, it was my colleagues, frankly speaking, from Lebanon, who got Lebanon to sign and join the Cluster Munition Convention. See, Lebanon was always going on with Israel and so on. We get them. And when you go to the ground in Lebanon, in the south or elsewhere, when you are clearing landmines, you are not going to leave landmines alone, and you get cluster munition. You clear everything.
You're going to clear everything. Yeah,
so you got the target here.
This may seem like a very simple question in some respects, and we've only got a few more minutes here together today. So I think we're going to have to do a part 2, you and I. But do you believe that little things make a big difference? Do you believe in incremental change?
Absolutely. I witnessed it myself, what I mean, for those years. And the thing, here, what we are doing, it's not just a work and then you go 9 in the morning and you go back home 5 and then it's done, I'll do it tomorrow. No. You have a target by the end. It's just to save. No more. When we said, even one of our slogan was a campaign with ICBL, no more victims. Well, it's true. When you get a country to join, that means no more victims will happen. When you get Kuwait to clear their lands, when you get Algeria did it, when Morocco is not using it anymore, when Tunisia cleared their border mines, that means no more landmine. Even country like Egypt, which is not a state party, when you little bit began with them, little bit by little bit, and I give you the example at the beginning, this army. Imagine in Egypt, the army call you all up.
No, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Then when they came, there is some troubles. At least they put sign or they fence the area, known that there is landmines or ERW or whatever. This is an achievement. This is exactly an example for what you mentioned. It's step by step. It's little bit by little bit.
It takes time. You need to build relationships. You need to build communities. You need to listen. There's so right. Landmines, unexploded ordnance. All over the world, in so many countries. What can other countries, other policymakers, other officials, other NGOs learn from the work that's happening in North Africa and in the Middle East? Is there anything that for you stands out? That's something that regions in that part of the world that are doing maybe not better than other people, but maybe in a more comprehensive way. Does that make sense?
You just came in on time between practice because I had a discussion like earlier with colleagues and other, about the unfortunate and the sad news about some withdrawal from the Mine Treaty and so on, for whatever reason, X or Y. And I was saying, guys, well, we should tell those who would like or even think to withdraw, listen, what do you have in hand? Look at the Middle East, look at Iraq, look at Algeria, look at Lebanon, look at Yemen, and none of them. Look at Palestine, and none of them. Look at Sudan, none of them even thought about withdrawing. This is an example. Well, some might tell me, you are so optimistic, trying to give
You're
an
idealistic,
example.
Yes.
No, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Look, Sudan, with all this, when I'm discussing with them, listen, guys, please, I'm telling them, speak up to those who would like to withdraw. Tell them we have much 10,000 times troubles, or even might be troubles than you, but we didn't even think, because it's something it's not history. Landmines is not something from the past. It's uselessness. It's really, even from military perspective, it has no meaning. It's a waste of money, it's waste of time, it's waste of lives before everything for your own people when you use it before the other, before the enemy. And they know that. To be honest, everyone knows that. Everyone in the field, military, they know that. That's absolutely true. So if I'm saying, okay, my region, Middle East and North Africa, they are champion here, it's a truth. Even they didn't mean it. Well, they will never submit it, but it's a truth.
So in a sense, you're saying we live in a region that has a lot of conflict, has a lot of troubles, but here are these countries that you see in the press with all this conflict and so on, who haven't actually stepped back from the treaty. So they've still...
And even don't think about it.
And don't even think about it. And so if that's not a lesson, if that's not a message to the world, yes, life is complicated, but we're not going to back away. I think that for me, that's an oversimplification for sure, but still, what a positive message to send to the world.
It is. It's not a justification. It's about truth of life. It's about what's going on the ground already. We hear always about mail about security issues, about we need this to protect and so on. So okay, this is example. This is the truth on the ground. Don't tell me about something that we know and you know, and the truth is telling you to let you know that no. It's just
I love the fact that you've highlighted that we kind of all know what the problem is. Some of us are more willing to do something about it than others. Ayman, last question, unfortunately. You strike me as a very hopeful person. Am I right about that? Like when you get out of bed in the morning, and I've asked a few of our other guests this same question. Lloyd Axworthy was a guest that I was so thrilled to interview a couple episodes ago, and he talked about radical hope. That's really stuck with me. This idea that in the midst of all the conflict, this crazy, beautiful world that we live in, we need radical hope. Do you agree? Is that you're smiling, of course, but is that how you get out of bed in the morning? Are you hopeful?
I don't think so that anyone like me even think when get up in the morning, because when get up in the morning, many other stuff in head. But the fact it comes from a kind of, I don't want to say it like a big words, but yeah, it's kind of philosophy of life. Because okay, what happened is what happened. What I'm going to change? Should I stay cry? I have the right to cry. I cry. Well, I remember my mother, I cry, because I was here when she passed away, and so on. And then, but is she going to come back when I cry? Or can I do something good for her soul after? It's simple. I'm telling my children the same, frankly speaking. And this is the way I see how things it is. One thing is about I believe maybe, I don't know from where it comes, but it's about the traces we live after we leave this life.
Kind of our legacy.
Absolutely. Well, legacy is a big word, but yeah, but it's okay. Well, can consider it legacy. Fortunately, within technology media now, we'll see our picture and videos maybe one day, like whatever years after. But no, what affect people? What you do for people more? This is not only them will be remembering you, and you will be proud of, and your children will be proud of, but it's normal, and I can tell you from personal perspective, when you see that you did something that stopped at least, there is many other people who's doing like much, much, much more than me. The miners in the ground, for instance, much, much are better than me. This feeling that you saved life. You don't know it. You don't know when. You don't know where. And even in the campaign, what I mean with ICBL, frankly speaking, when we're working, I believe, ICBL staffs, all same colleagues and campaigners, regional campaigners too, also everywhere in the region. When we're working, this is the point. It's not being about optimistic, but you have to be optimistic. Of course, we got like bad times, of course we go bad stuff and we think about it. But after a while, we make it pass the way quickly and then we move. How we solve this? That's why we are named campaign.
Yeah. Well, Ayman, thank you so much. I mean, if that's not a call to action, I don't know what is. Thank you for your time today. What a pleasure. I mean, talk about I knew this was going to happen. It always happens. We've just scratched the surface. We have so many more things to talk about. I look forward to meeting you. I hope I get to do that soon. Ayman Sorour, he's the Director of Protection Egypt and the co-vice chair of the ICBL Governance Board. And he's got, as we've talked about at great length here, over 2 decades of experience and just a whole lot of knowledge, not only on the region, but on the problem itself. Ayman, thank you for your time here today with me on Silent Killers.
Thanks a lot, David, and well, hopefully I will have another one.
Yes, I hope so too. You're listening to Silent Killers. Please subscribe. Leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. It pushes us up in the queue and the algorithmic approach. They get us higher in the list. So the digital list. I don't even know what to call it actually. But please leave us a review. Share it with family and friends. And thank you for listening. My name's David Peck. I'm Ayman Sorour here today on Silent Killers.